Hello everyone, this is again Doc B, DOC Doc B, narrating my story. And next chapter is contribution to the cancer world by my dear receptionist, Cindy Jones. Before I mention about her life and her contribution to medical oncology, I had to introduce myself, and I was her boss, so to say. And she served me for last 10 years of my medical practice in Tidewater area in Virginia. How did Cindy come into my life is a very interesting occurrence. I had to detail it. And in my 30 years of my oncology practice in that area, I had three secretaries or medical assistants. Each one served 10 years of their time with me. But Cindy was the last, she was the one, she was with me for the last 10 years of my oncology practice. I was lucky not to have a big practice, and my practice was dying down slowly because of other competition all over the area by many medically qualified oncologists in that area. And why I'm saying lucky is that helped me to pursue other interests like gardening and traveling, etc. during that time. But I could not have pursued those interests without Cindy's help. I will explain how. Actually, my previous secretary, when she left, I had to hire so-called medical temporaries, and they will come for a month or so, and I had to train them. By that time, they're gone. So I was very uh, restless because I had to do everything myself, like filling the insurance, taking the appointment, collecting the money, etc. It was very difficult. And one day, Cindy's mom came. She was my patient for her checkup. So she saw me struggling, and I told her that I need somebody who can help me on a regular basis. I'm looking for a new secretary. And she says, I can ask Cindy to do it, Doc, not Sheila. She said, because I knew both Cindy and Sheila, both. Sheila was Cindy's younger sister. Actually, I saw Cindy nearly 5 or 7 years, even before that episode, because her son, Christopher, came to the Humana emergency room, Humana Bayside Hospital emergency room, with a cat bite on his dorsal aspect of his one of the arms, one of the hands. And I probably was in emergency room, physician on call for that day. Whatever, they asked me to see him, and it's obviously a surgical problem, but they called me. So I went and saw him and took some swab from that wound for culture and put him on antibiotics, namely penicillin. And also, I called a buddy of mine. He's no longer alive now, he passed away. And I will write his story also and his contribution to medical field later on. But his name was Dr. Amar Singh from Sri Lanka. So he promptly came and incised that little swelling, which was supposed to be the standard of care, and then dressed it up. And in 2 days, it got better, and he was discharged from the hospital. That is the time I, for the first time, I saw Cindy, my Cindy. I keep on saying my Cindy because then I thought I'm too selfish to say she's my Cindy. That's why I'm using the word our Cindy. By our Cindy, what I mean is she is a Cindy of everybody, entire country, origin of beach, nation, and the world. That type of service she provided during the short time when she worked for me. So our Cindy, uh, she was at that point in time when first Christopher was in the hospital. I saw her. She was absolutely beautiful, but she has a very peculiar staring look. She used to stare at the sky or out of the unknown place with it, as if she is thinking about something, and probably something to do with her personal life at that time. I didn't ask. That's none of my business. Initial episode after those 2 days of her son's admission was over. But same Cindy, when her mother recommended, I said I will see her, and she came to my office for an interview, and I saw her, and I was she looked different at that time, a little different, and gained some weight, but other than that, same kind of a disposition like before. And I said, my practice is very small. I don't have money to give her a full-time job, and I can give I can give her only half-time job. That means less than 40 hours per day, per week, per whatever pay period. 40 hours. That is technically, if one gives less than 40 hours or half time pay, we do not have to give any type of benefits, which include uh, medical benefit as well as participation of in a employee profit sharing plan, which I used to have at that time. She told me, "That's okay, doc. I don't need them. I have a full time job and of 8 hour job, and I get my medical insurance there, and I am not interested in taking pension or profit sharing extra money." So, but I told her that I will give a big starting per hour salary. At that time, it was around $8 per hour or something, and I said I will start her off with $12, something like that, and she agreed to that, and that was it. Uh, Same day, next day she came to work for me, and she had the office key front and back, and the agreement was she will come at 8 a.m. and leave by 12 o'clock noon time. We had very few patients, 4 to 6 patients, and of which some of them are medical oncology follow-up patients, and some of them were internal medicine patients. Uh, and maybe one active chemotherapy twice a week, something like that. That's it. But billing also was manually we used to do at that time. But I had a medical billing program. I bought it and I configured it and customized to my office needs how to fill it, to type print the primary insurance as well as co-insurance. After that, billing also will be done, any balance to the patients. And I briefly taught her on the first day, and that's it. She learnt everything instantly. Then, 4 weeks later, and the money started to come, she used to enter everything in the computer, and then type the secondary insurance, printed them, everything. I barely took 1 week to teach her how to do it, and she learnt everything. In addition to that, she has to schedule patients, and at the reception room, she has to registration of the patients, everything. She was all round. She was not just a receptionist. She was it. I had no other help in my office. All new patients, female patients, new or old ladies, she has to come to the examining room because of legal purposes also. And uh, when I was giving chemotherapy to some selected female patients, I used to keep that room open. Door was slightly open so that if I'm going in and out to that room, she'll be watching. So that is for the again legal reasons. So she did that also. There was a front entrance was a private doctor's entrance and the patient's entrance. So if I come late, I used to sneak in from the left private entrance, which is through the receptionist's area, then go to my back consultation area. That's what I used to do. I tried my best not to come late, but I used to be average 5 minutes early, up up to 15 minutes late. But I also she will brief me right in the morning, as soon as she comes, who I am expecting, and I know by in my own mind who is sick and who is not sick, who needs chemotherapy. Accordingly, I used to adjust, and I practically tried my best not to come late, particularly when the patient is in potential pain or needing some type of therapy of a complex nature. And I did everything in my office. I bought the medicine, mixed the medicines, and bought the IV fluids. I started my IV. Cindy used to collect the urine of the patient sometimes, and then I had to test the urine, things like that. Everything all around. I did not do anything. I did not send anything out for lab to check the urine and everything. All the lab tests I used to send it the previous day. They used to go to the lab and required lab. They were getting it done there. It's called Roche lab at that time, and everything will be electronically coming to my office. She will print. Cindy will print all the lab tests, and everything will be ready in my chart for me to proceed with the chemotherapy if it's needed. And I did not do complicated chemotherapy, but push chemotherapy. Some of the medicine which can be pushed within that I did, which are not potentially uh, producing any type of immediate side reactions, and also short infusions up to 2 hours of infusion chemotherapy. Also, I performed in the office. A patient, if they needed a follow-up cardiogram, for example, or anything, for female patients, Cindy did it. I had a electrocardiogram machine, and she mounted all the leads and did the EKG, and whatever it is, it was without any complaint, without any absolutely. She learned so fast, and she complied, and she was so helpful. So it was a pleasure to work with her. Also, uh, in those 5 or 6 or 7 years, she never asked for a raise in salary. Never. Never asked a raise in salary. After 2, 3 years or something, I proposed the first time. I said I will give a little bit of raise, and then I was giving her a little more raise, whatever it is. She never asked for any penny increase in her salary. Never complained of anything. I think she is part Italian and part Irish. I think her mother was an Italian, her father was an Irish background, and she was very, very experienced in multitasking. And when she is doing something, I call her. She never got upset. She used to come back to my exam room or whatever I needed. So that is the type of a person I was fortunate enough to get through Cindy's mother, who happened to be my patient as well. She had medical problems, not any cancer related problem. There was no obvious cancer history in the family at all, which I will come to. Why I'm mentioning it, I'll come to it later on. Cindy's father was also my patient, and then Cindy's sister Sheila one time became my patient. I either also because she wanted to go to South America on a vacation, so she wanted some medications to prevent so-called Montezuma's curse or tropical diarrhea. So for that, I don't prescribe. As an internal medicine specialist, I could do primary care as well. So with that in mind, I prescribed her some sort of antibiotics. But despite that, she had a bad vacation, and she had diarrhea, and she had a very bad vacation. And even then, the whole family was appreciative that whatever I did to them, that type of a family it was. Cindy's family, Cindy's parents. At that time, these kids were growing, and the two boys, and Christopher and the other girl, I have never seen her, but they enlisted to U.S. Air Force or something in a reconnaissance, medical, some kind of a secret operation, and that is the time there was a enterprise a thing going in Georgia. These, I think they were Osama bin Laden being hunted in Afghan area or something, and these children were in that mission, and she didn't even know where her own kids were, which produced so much of tension in her mind. But even then, she did not share any of those problems or issues with me. Also, at that time, she had her own independent apartment. She was not living with her parents. So, what happened was somewhere down the line, about 2 years after Cindy started to work for me, one day she said she has a excess menstruation problem and some cramps. She wanted advice what to do, medical advice from me. I uh, gave her there are 7 options to deal with that. It happens as a menopause time. It happens 7 options, and but she should go and see her own gynecologist specialist, and they will give you all the options, and they will recommend whatever is needed. So accordingly, she took a time off, and I don't know how I adjusted when she was having that surgery. How I did my practice, maybe somebody else helped me. But my practice was so small anyway. So 4 or 5 days, I didn't have come to the office at all, adjusting the patients so that only elective patients will be coming after the thing, and there is no active chemotherapy or follow-ups, something like that. And she did everything, then adjusted her schedule so that my work was uh, not suffering, even though I have a very small amount of patient load. Uh, and she elected to have total abdominal hysterectomy. That means open the whole thing from above, and look into the uterus and the ovaries and everything, and elect to take the whole thing, scoop the whole thing out, including the ovaries. That's what she decided. But to her good fortune, uh, uh, they found a cyst-like mass in the one of the ovaries, left or right, I do not know. But when they analyzed it, there was an early cancer of the ovary. So that was her good fortune. That was found, that part of, that type of a cancer of the ovary was found early stage, and there are two common kinds of ovarian cancer. I don't know which kind it was. Probably there is epithelial ovarian tumors of two kinds, common varieties. There are so many other kinds which we do not have to discuss here because they are all rare and they are unique and their treatment approach are different. But these two were found. Why I'm saying it is, um, simplest thing was so-called vaginal hysterectomy. Just with 20 minutes, they could have removed the uterus. That is the causing the excess menstruation. If that was done, they couldn't have found the ovarian cancer. But the surgery she went through was a fairly big surgery that had a higher risk of mortality and morbidity. But that's what she decided to undergo. And everything is considered to be standard of care. One has benefits others, compared to others. So after weighing the pros and cons of all the suggestions given by her female doctors, specialists, she went to that major surgery. She came out like a champion with that surgery, and my work did not interfere because of that. At the same token, a cancer, early cancer of the ovary was found, but it was not too early. If it's called stage 1A, if it was stage 1A, she wouldn't have had any chemotherapy at all. I think it was stage 1B or 1C, which those days the standard of care was to give six cycles of chemotherapy, to prevent some small amounts of cancer cells might have escaped other places from the site of the origin, which could potentially grow and become big. At that time, it will be considered to be advanced stage, and the treatment will be difficult, and cure rate will not will be much less. With that possibility in mind, her medical oncologists, they were all my colleagues, and they were all of high ethical and moral caliber. They recommended her some kind of adjuvant chemotherapy, ADJUVANT, adjuvant chemotherapy. That means treatment with a presumption that there is a risk of a relapse risk because of small microscopic amounts of cancer cells escaping from the local area, going either through the blood and or lymphatic system to the distant areas of the body where it will be sleeping. But since they are so small quantity, that can be tackled and destroyed up to the last cell level by chemotherapy, which is a medicines come through blood, given through blood system and goes wherever blood goes, and therefore they will attack the microscopic small amounts to eliminate it to, and a few cells which is left, our own body cell immunity will clear it so that the patient has a potential for cure. So she did that six treatment without any kind of a major side effects or complications, and she did not even lose one day of work. And she came to my office, and even the chemo days, she had no symptoms or any problems. Or chemo day, probably she skipped it. The next day of chemo, she came, something like that. So that was over. So that was the first battle or around with cancer, treatment with cancer, that is the ovarian cancer. Then years passed, and I was, my mother or somebody was sick in India. My mother was alone, and we three brothers. We decided to take turns and take care of my mother in a small town in India, because my older brother passed away in 3 days, and nobody was there. Whatever reason, it's not important. But I used to go to India for 4 months. 4 months. 4 to 5 months. I used to go to India. I had a coverage from my medical oncological coverage from my couple of colleagues and also medical oncologist, one Dr. Berger or somebody there. He was a wonderful person, and I used to play tennis and everything with me. His group gave me coverage when I was gone for oncology patients, which were only handful without any major complications. They needed only follow-up. So it was not important. They didn't even call the other office for those 5 months. They were all stable oncology patients needing just a follow-up. But why 5 months? 4 months I will take care of my mother, and 1 month I will have a vacation time where I will see all my relatives or travel to some interesting places in India. That's why 4 months, and two other brothers promptly came, and they, without any question, they came and took care of the remaining. That's why 1 year is to 4 times 3, 12. And like that, we did it for 4 times, 4 rounds, and finally my mother died at the age of 94, 95, whatever it is, doesn't matter. So during the last leg of my journey to India, that was around November of that year. Uh, a month or so before that, Cindy found a self-detected a small breast lump right under the skin on the one of the sides. I think it's right side, uh, near their armpit area, axillary area. And again, I had to emphasize this interesting phenomenon because her mammogram done just 6 months prior to that did not show anything. She used to get annual mammograms. And so, but for whatever reason, she examined herself. Maybe she was doing breast self exam once a month, whatever. And she found a small lump in the right side breast, right under the skin, light under the skin in the axillary or armpit area. She again went to the medical oncologist, same oncologist who treated her with ovary cancer, and he got it biopsied, and it was locally confined. It was locally confined, but it was of some kind of aggressive type, according to the histopathology or under the microscope. That is the time point in time there was a lot of advances were made in the detection, staging, early detection of the breast cancer. A lot of advances were going on, and there are so many tumor subtypes were also identified. This particular tumor was a little aggressive, and that subtype uh, called for giving another 6 cycle of adjuvant chemotherapy for that situation, and that type of recommendation was considered to be a fairly standard procedure. At least patients had a right to refuse the treatment because some of them cannot afford the treatment. These are all investigational. Some of them are not covered by insurance, and the medical costs for the chemotherapy costs were already skyrocketing. I will continue. Medical costs for such treatments were very, very high at that time. Already costs were going up. These medicines were all new medications and with a high cost. And since many, many types of approaches were coming and many, many new types of treatment for these cancers were coming, including breast cancer, the drug companies were very competitive to sell their product. Because of that type of situation, they used to invite me every day. We used to give every week we used to get an invitation from drug companies to attend a medical drug company product promotional meetings in different type parts of the country, mostly in 3 to 4 star hotels like in Las Vegas, Puerto Rico, Miami, Florida, Disney World, Disneyland, things like that. And because my practice was very small, and also because uh, I was very keen on learning all the new things about new products and how to diagnose, early diagnosis, as well as pain control and psychological support, etc., nausea, vomiting, etc., how it is controlled. Those are the medications they were trying to market it. At that point in time, I was a member of a supply, oncological drug supply company called ION, International Oncology Network. That's where I used to get my chemotherapy medicines and the IV fluids and the pain medications for a discount price. And the ION company, um, looking back, one can say it was a kickback, but whatever, they used to invite me. Also, other companies also used to invite me for meetings. And initially, and every time my wife, who is a doctor, she will see the invitation and immediately say, "You should, I should register and go there." Why is her interest for me to register? Because she is a freeloader. She will also come. Um, the deal is like this: the companies will give me round trip ticket, and usually we go there on a Friday, any day, Friday morning or Friday afternoon flight, depends on the distance of the flight. And they will send a nice limousine or a car at the airport. When we go to the 4 to 5 star hotel, that evening there will be reception, and maybe either the and a dinner evening. And everything is, there is no mention of any kind of a medicines drug company talk at all. No marketing gimmicks there. Day one is all fun, and spouses are included. The room is a double bedroom, so spouse is included. Spouse doesn't have to, or a other, the significant other doesn't have to pay any money. So that's number one. And then there too, there is a breakfast. Everybody gets free breakfast, room service, you name it. It's like a five-star treatment. Doctors, and then about 9 o'clock, there's a medical meeting starts, and about 3 hours, 12 o'clock. Then afternoon, there may be 1 hour session between 12 to 1 break. Those times, there is a moderator of the meeting, and then there are several subjects will be discussed. And there is always a plug-in for the new product by the speaker, even though they all have a standard disclaimer saying that they do not have any vested interest in the company. All those standard disclaimers has to be uttered, uttered, uttered out. And I sometimes the same medicine, same drug company meeting, but trying to promote the same medicine, but a week later, another place, another time, another speaker, but they all do the same thing. But the significant other, they on the after Friday until we get out, they do not have anything to do with this, only to have good time there. And find their own, they also find their own social network of interaction, and banquet and dance and all those things used to happen there on a regular basis. And practically I went there every week to these meetings because of my insistence of my wife. But no matter where I went, whatever, I never skipped the 9 to 3 hour meeting. I never skipped even one, for two reasons. One is, if I skip it, I can just go there and sign the attendance list there. Yes, initially that as if you are attended, then you can get out. But it's unfair. Unfair. I thought it was unfair to do that. Justice to the just drug company who is trying to educate us and sell their product. Secondly, most of the speakers who gave the talk were very, very of high caliber, and they gave excellent speech. And one, even though same subject by two other talk speech givers were slightly, I would have picked up an extra caviar, some extra tip. So I used to go there at least for those two reasons. So I was fairly up to date with all the modern treatments up to that time for breast cancer. But Cindy, as after the this biopsy of this rare type of breast cancer, fairly aggressive type was done, they recommended either breast removal followed by adjuvant chemotherapy, or without, even without breast removal, they could have the standard of care called for adjuvant chemotherapy of 6 months or 4 months, I don't remember, but I think it's 6 months, that's a number. So she opted to have her breast removed followed by chemotherapy. Again, that mastectomy surgery went on very smoothly and she healed very fast. Then she started the chemotherapy um, for this aggressive breast cancer. Uh, Again, at that point in time, she did not ask me any kind of my opinion of what approach to take. With the same knowledge, I would have, or I might have um, recommended a so-called wait and watch approach, or so if that happened, for example, if that type of an approach, which was also not supposed to be the out of line for recommending that, and if she had agreed to that approach, next thing wouldn't have been happening, which she went through the bigger problem of the next cancer she was going to confront with. That's what I'm going to address. So it's all the matter of, you know, you are damned if you did and damned if you didn't, that type of a situation. And since she did not ask me, and since she took that approach, that led to subsequent events which is of interesting interest. And that is this fact that of interest. I will elaborate it later on. Anyway, I had a coverage for my oncology practice, which is the same group treating Cindy. And also, I had coverage for a small medical patients with diabetes, high blood pressure, things like that. They will call for a headache or a refill or something like that. And I had doctors covering for that. Then again, I had to take care of my mother. The deal is 5 months vacation. 4 months I take care of her. I cook and clean and everything for her. And then after that, 1 month off. We used to take her. I used to take on my own. Yeah, after 1 month, I take my vacation. Then I come back. I used to plan my trip, so I used to get the least expensive round trip fare to go to India. It's all different story. It is important because how important save the money and keep the money, because money can run away in no time. I'll come to that also. It's pertinent to everybody's care. That's why I talk about money, 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 money all the time. Anyway, so with that in mind, uh, she was getting chemotherapy for after the surgery. She was getting breast cancer adjuvant, means prophylactic chemotherapy to prevent, destroy the small microscopic amounts of cancer lying down here and there beyond the site of origin, either spread there with the blood system or a lymphatic system. That's the way the cancer spread. Typically breast cancer is a spreads like that. Some tend to spread more often with blood system than lymphatic system. These are all fine points one need not know, but this is what the doctors are for. They will have to recommend the patient according to the all the cell type and the aggressiveness and lymphatic spread and blood spread, and the evidence of spread from other places using very final techniques like CAT scan, MRI, etc. Anyway, she decided to take the chemotherapy, and I was scheduled to come back that year, like in April, I think, April of that year. So there, now comes the sad part. Around in March, she calls me on my cell phone in India, and she's crying. She's sobbing and crying. Cindy, my Cindy, our Cindy is crying. Why she's crying? And she says, I have some new problem, and they found advanced colon cancer, advanced colon cancer, and they did a surgery, and I may not even be able to come out of the surgery. I mean, I may not be able to come from the hospital. I may be disabled, and I may not be able to work for you. That is the touchy point. She was so concerned about me that she cannot work for me anymore. That's why she was crying. I don't express too much of emotion to anybody uh, anyway. So I said, doesn't matter, Cindy. Whatever, you take care. And when I come back, we'll deal with that. No big deal. And that's the interaction I had with her on that particular phone call. But the sad part is coming. The sad part is the some of the chemotherapy medicines given, the combination chemotherapy medications given for breast cancer, those set of medications do not work for colon cancer. That is the point. So when she had early breast cancer in that November, she concomitantly most likely had early, no, fairly advanced colon cancer originating near the some spot. I'll say right side of the colon, not even the rectum part, right side of the colon. That's where she had a big lump. So that's number one. Number two, they were giving chemotherapy medicines for the breast cancer. Some of the side effects of these medications include nausea, vomiting, abdominal cramps, diarrhea, constipation, things like that. And she was indeed getting all these some side effects of these side effects, and she attributed them to the treatment of the breast cancer she was getting. Yeah, she was going through. So she has witnessed so many patients of mine getting chemotherapy. I usually tell them, "Oh, this is all chemotherapy induced. It will go better. It will get better." I used to give so many medicines to neutralize, sometimes prophylactically, and sometimes during, and sometimes as needed, things like that. So she has witnessed all those things, and she thought it might be from the side effects of the chemotherapy medications. And with that, 4 or 5 cycles, this right in the abdomen, the colon cancer which was present became bigger and bigger and bigger, and came to the stage of stage 4, or advanced stage, which was eating up the local area, and the big lump was there. That's what she was. It was found when she was when the treatment of the breast cancer was going on. The oncologist found a palpable, a big lump which she can feel in this abdomen, inside the abdomen. That means even a medical student say this is advanced cancer. I mean, once they diagnose it, otherwise it could be other causes also. So when I was in India, this 4 months of the treatment was finished. Then she got the investigation. I think they cut her up, and they found a big cancer which they could not remove it completely. And then she recovered from the surgery, and she ended up with a maybe colostomy. I have no idea. I forgot. But then she needed a that was advanced cancer. I would say it probably was a stage 4 colon cancer. Stage 4. Statistically speaking, at that point in time, with all the best of the care, if somebody has 12 to 18 months of reasonably good quality life, we used to call it miracle, because most of the patients in that type of situation, that part time in time, they used to median survival, what we call, is about 13 months. But she that was a remarkable, what the last leg of her life, how she went through battle of fighting the colorectal cancer is a very colon cancer is very important to me to elaborate. So with that in mind, uh, she, but when I came back, she recovered from all those things. She was beginning to get chemotherapy for the rectal colon cancer, which was advanced. In this advanced situation, there is no such thing as six treatments or eight treatments. You have to give as long as the medication works, at least that point in time. There is no point, no way it will disappear right away. It can happen like a miracle, but it does not happen. They have to take chemotherapy right away. So these treatments were, again, she went through with the different sets of medications which are specifically focused for treatment of colon cancer. Again, she will go to the same oncologist's office, and they will give chemotherapy in the morning, or then they have to go. She has to go follow up for white count check and the blood check and everything. And these medicines produce an extremely low white count and extremely tired feeling on the first 3 4 days of chemotherapy. Fourth day white count goes down so much that patients are in risk for infection and sepsis, septicemia, or blood infection. And if that happens, they are gone in within 24 hours. That type of situation. But during that time also, she was working for me, scheduling the patients and doing all the routines, billing and everything. There was no workman's compensation, and there is no compensation of any kind. Any medically, I was not medically legally required to give her anything at all. She maintained her full-time job also there at that time. She was working two jobs, but then she became weaker. She lost the job, other job, but her condition, she knew how to apply for medical assistance or Medicaid, because she knew all the methods how to get, and she applied for disability, and luckily Medicaid kicked in. Until then, probably she underwent a lot of expenses on her own, and her parents and probably other people supported her. She did not ask me even to give a red cent. She did not even ask me to give her any type of money of any reason. Never discussed about money at all. That's number two. But one day, I was in the hospital. Then 9 a.m. I come there. There was no chemotherapy. There were four patients scheduled for me to see that day. And Cindy, to me, she looked like a ghost. She was so exhausted, looked blah and listless. And I looked at her and I got shocked. And I can diagnose everything quite a bit just from looks of the patient. That much experience I had. And I had also given chemotherapy to so many patients, and I have their expression. And what happened, Cindy? How are you? I don't feel good, doc. Then why did you not call me? Why didn't you call me and come? I would have said, stay at home. You know what she says? There is a female patient scheduled today, so I had to come. She could have cancelled her too. No, she came, and I was so touched by her. Um, the the compassion, not for me, for everybody. I'm not saying not for me, not for me, not for me. That is my Cindy, our Cindy. She had compassion for everybody. So I said, okay, I will see this female patient. You just stand there, and then this is just a follow up. Then you go home. You go home and come back only when you feel better. I think she came back 3 days later. There are a couple of patients, they can always be rescheduled. So in the last leg of that was last year, 2009. 2009, when I was coming, she was still getting chemotherapy. She was still getting for the chemotherapy. Breast cancer chemotherapy ended and continued with the advanced colon cancer chemotherapy. And uh, and at that time, I practically had nearly only 100 patients, perhaps. Total number of patients I had was 100 patients, perhaps. And I was also trying to phase out and retire from my practice. But there is a lot of legal responsibilities of transferring every patient to the some other doctor, and that means hand over all the medical records and do the final billing, and a corporation should be unincorporated. All those things I was doing, and Cindy will slowly started to help me with the practice closing process. That's a big process. I was LLC or something like a corporation. We had to unincorporate, and all those things through the advice of my attorneys. I was doing it, and Cindy again, absolutely up to the. She copied all the charts and called all the patients and gave all the charts to each patient, the original chart with a signature from the patient saying that they received their original chart, and keep the duplicate, which we were legally required to keep up to six years. Even though the patient's doctor communication is over, still we have to, at that point in time, we had to keep the charts, original charts, for 6 years. And if there is some kind of a criminal type of, there are so many loopholes in the taxes, the lawyers can get after these doctors even after 20 years of some kind of a so-called malpractice, things like that. I was extremely scared of all those things, and I might have done some mistakes too, like anybody else. It is humanly possible. Everybody would have done little mistake, but to protect, I did my best to asking Cindy to make copies of these charts and all. She made her best and did everything and gave the last patient. Also, to at that time my practice was so low, so small. I did my final bookkeeping and everything. Actually, I had to infuse 10,000 plus dollars into the practice to run my practice. And the only reason I was running my practice at that point is one is my suite was not sold, office suite I owned. It was not sold. For my good fortune, one doctor finally decided to buy my suite. That big burden was over. Second is I was going to stay there as long as Cindy wanted. At that point, my payroll was early payroll, 6 months payroll she had, and she had moved to her parents' house nearby. They took her, and oh, she went to parents' house. But this is the the clicker. Now I'm going to cry. This is highly emotional. On June 30, uh, June 30, uh, 2009, June 30, 2009, or June, 2 days before June 30, she said, Dr. Rao, June 30 will be my final day. Everything has been accomplished. All the patients were transferred, everything is there, all the billing is there, everything is done. June 30 on, I don't want to work for you. The reason is, that is the thing. I want to go and stay with my parents and take care of them and take care of them. That's what she said. At that point in time, her dad was also already getting into early stages of Alzheimer's type of dementia, and mother also was getting weaker and weaker, and they were nearby, and she is in a bad shape herself with chemotherapy, financially also bad shape, and kids were not there physically, her children, because they were probably in unknown place somewhere in fighting. They are with some kind of a U.S. reconnaissance type of a situation. Nobody will tell where the GI or enrolled officers, what position they had. I don't remember, but that statement really, 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 really affected me. Even today, I remember. How many people one can uh, uh, be like that? So again, her biography in her. I only the other day I printed out her obituary from Cindy Jones's obituary, and it says Virginia Beach. Cindy Sue Jones. I didn't even know she had a middle name called Sue, S-U-E, of Virginia Beach. Passed away following a 16-year battle with her cancer on Friday, October 30, 2015, at the age of 56 years. She was born in December 25, 1958, to late Donald E. and Olga Mills, formerly Palermo. She probably was an Italian, and Donald Mills was an Irish guy in Pensacola, Florida. So when I asked, they fell in love. That's how they met. Donald Mills was uh, probably in a navy. He was a navy person. When she developed the first cancer, ovary cancer, from that point on, Cindy became so active helping cancer related people. She used to march for cancer, run for the cancer, half a marathon, things like that. And she was very active there. And I didn't even know, she did not share all those her ventures while she was doing that. Patient Advocacy Foundation for Cancer, and testifying before the U.S. Congress to help others with cancer. I didn't even know that she went to the U.S. Congress to testify when I was there. I did not know that she had a brother, and in addition to her father, Cindy was preceded in death by her brother Dennis. So her father and Dennis were gone when she died in 2015. Everybody ought to know she left me on December 2000, on June 30, 2009. So she survived with that. She fought this colon cancer is one of the worst kind of cancer, both for pain and suffering as well as tenacity. And usually they live only for 18 months median survival. I used to congratulate myself. I achieved a great thing with chemotherapy or treating that patient. Patient family also used to be very proud of such achievements. But she lived uh, nearly 6 years, which is remarkable. Now some of them live even longer. So don't you guys don't lose hope. Even in colon cancer, advances are much better. I will come to that story with another friend of mine later on in the colon cancer, colorectal cancer. His name is Dr. Varnan Neto. He's a doctor, colleague, my friend. He's fought with the cancer and survived for 15 plus years. And then that's a most fascinating story. I'll tell another day, another matter now, because I'm going to confine myself to Cindy and her achievements. So that's the thing. That's the point I was trying to tell about her achievements and testifying for the cancer, running for the cancer march and everything. All unheard of, and I never knew that. And only other day when I dug into her little obituary, and I had to brush up what else happened. And she had that one bunch of nice people. Nobody asked me anything. Nobody questioned what I was doing. Nobody interfered with my and Cindy's relationship, or they did not. They were anything I did. They were appreciative. That's all. Who were I exposed to uh, in their family? They were all appreciative. Low key, calm people, except Cindy's mother, of course, because she was an Italian. And interestingly, she only had one eye. I think she had a glass eye for a few years. When I was treating her, I didn't even know that she was blind. I used to write a note that both peoples are equal, both eyes are reacting. Then I realized that she only had one eye. So, is it a medical malpractice? Maybe. I don't know. Nothing. She didn't die from any eye problem, or I didn't produce that blind eye anyway myself. So that's how the story goes. It says, in lieu of flowers, family requests that contribution in Cindy's memory made to the American Cancer Society. I myself have not given much money to any societies, you know. Maybe I have given maybe $500 something. I give donations here and there on my own, but I will look into it and I probably will give some to some sort of a cancer research at this point in time to help others. This is going to happen. I don't want any type of advertisement or recognition for that venture anyway. So that's all I can tell, I think, about my Cindy. When I see that, I wrote somewhere my Cindy when I sent this clip to the biographer, and I am addressing her as my Cindy is absolutely selfish because she is our Cindy and Cindy of the entire universe. And we need more people like that to share the universal love. I will end there and see what my biographer thinks about this clip.